We should say that we are certified financial advisors and that everything we've said on here can be taken for gospel.
But you don't say that.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, don't.
Well, guys, remind people too, think outside of the box a little bit here. Why not partner up? Okay. Having some camaraderie, somebody to share a common goal with you makes that project a lot more fun, especially when you're suffering through this time of the year. So, bring a partner on, man. Misery loves company. They can share some of that risk and share some of that reward, right there with you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drury Outdoors 100% Wild podcast. It's powered by DeerCast. I am Tim Chelsvik.
I'm Matt Drury. It's good to have you back. We had an episode without you there with Forrest, but luckily Forrest had all the knowledge on what to do with clover.
Yeah, I would have sat there.
I did.
I will say, though, I am becoming a clover devotee.
Yeah.
Because I got a couple clover pots in right now. And they're actually looking pretty good. I have this old lawnmower that my mom was going to throw out.
I saw your social stories.
It gets worse because it's supposed to be self-propelled. Well, that part broke.
Yeah.
So it's even harder to push than a normal push mower because the stupid gears are like still engaged.
Slowing down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but I got out there and I got it mowed. Looks good.
Looks good.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably been 3 years in the making. Like, it really is true. It takes a few cycles to get it up and running, get roots established. And the clover is definitely more predominant than the grasses.
I forget, did you have the biologic non-typical clover or did you go with the clover plus?
I had both.
Yeah.
And so I overseeded that thing and have been for a while.
Yeah.
So it looks good. And surprisingly, the pH is testing pretty good in the timber.
It is surprising because it's probably a rocky area in general.
It is. Yeah. So I really thought that I'd have to be adding more lime to it, but it's pretty good. And the clover is showing up nicely. And then my spring plot that I put in this year is looking pretty good too. So
this is the year, Tim.
You should have had me on instead of Forrest.
Well, listen, you're
Forrest
a busy guy.
Right. So many appointments.
Yeah. So little time.
Well, I know that people are like, there's kind of a general malaise about land right now, just because people think, it's too expensive. Like, there's no way I could even afford. Everything's going up in price.
And it is expensive.
I should have jumped in years ago. There's hope.
Yeah. It's an interesting topic because with interest rates where they're at and not really going anywhere, and the dollar doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Yeah. It is tough. And just personally, I've noticed like I've got into this probably 7 years ago now, and I feel like I'm getting less and less acreage when I do these flips, and it's costing more and more. And that is the reality of it. But you're still, when I look at it as much as an investment as I do as a hunting property or, it's just cool. Like, hey, all I'm doing is building equity. So anyways, today we got a specialist in the area that doesn't have to talk in generalities. He's probably got a little more information.
Yeah, we got Lucas Edington joining us. He's a full service real estate broker, and he serves all of Southeast Missouri. He has received platinum, gold, silver, and bronze awards of excellence. Corporate Pinnacle Club member, the Fox Hayes Award 2018 through Mossy Oak Corporate. And he was listed as a 30 under 30 in Realtor magazine. So it sounds like you're doing something right.
What's up, Lucas?
Hey, Tim, Matt, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me. Very excited. And just everything that you guys are talking about, trying to balance kids and sports and work and try to spend a little bit of time out on the farm. And of course, take some time off here in the rain to visit with you guys about all of those topics.
Yeah. So you're with the Mossy Oak Properties group, and you kind of service the Southeast Missouri area. Is that right?
I'm based down here in Butler County, Southeast Missouri. We have agents all over Missouri and Arkansas, within my immediate network. And then, of course, as you guys are aware, Mossy Oak Properties has qualified brokers all over the United States. So, that's something that we really rely on when you're kind of getting into, a certain level of land game. I might not necessarily be looking in a specific part of a state, I might be looking all through the Midwest.
Oh, okay.
We like to be able to serve that need.
Yeah, I guess. How does that work? Because there are a ton of realtors out there in the recreational land game, and it really exploded, in the last 15 years or so, 10 years specifically. So how does someone go about, like, should you be just in general looking at all the websites out there? Or, like, is there a certain place that kind of has everything, all the listings in one spot, and you're just kind of cruising through what's best? Because that is an area that's kind of hard to figure it out. It's like, where do I even begin?
Yeah.
You bet. Mossy Oak Properties on the corporate side, they've got a really good, slick website. And that's going to have everything that's available through our network. And then, for an example, you can go to our website on mozark.com, and that's going to give you a listing of all of the inventory available that you can search by county. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
I would hang up on us too. And it's happened before. My mom hung up on me a couple days ago.
Well, I get it.
I'm one of her favorite sons. So
You and your mom are hillbillies.
Take that back. Francis Chelswick is a saint.
But y'all don't say that.
Man.
We were done anyways. I mean, we had a good run.
Sorry. Well, hang on here. Can I stay on this and turn cellular off? Will that work?
You could just put do not disturb on.
That's right. Let's do that.
I remember when I had my first beer.
Man,
You know what I mean?
it was an
This is
O'Doul's.
pitiful. Right on. Like I say, man, hillbilly, I'll sell the hell out of land. Don't ask me about phones or computers.
What's this guy's deal?
You can get on the podcast, but can you stay on the podcast?
All right.
It's
All right.
tricky.
So pick up right where you left off. We'll just jump right back in.
Right. So as I was saying, the Mossy Oak corporate side, that's going to give you a great insight to anything that's available within our network. And then, our website, mozark.com, that'll give you an opportunity to look at all the available listings by type, size, area, acreage, of course, all the typical breakdowns. So that's a good place to start. The best thing to do is get with a qualified and trusted land broker, because, they're out there hunting every day. They're going to be able to lead you in a direction from all of these available inventory platforms, and also may be able to turn you on to something that's not necessarily on the market.
Yeah, that's I think the biggest thing is a lot of times they'll have an in, or they know of something that's about to hit. You guys all, whether you're with Mossy Oak Properties or one of the other, companies out there, you guys all talk together a lot of times, and you know what's about to hit. Or you might have a buyer that has what they call a pocket list, or a seller that has a pocket listing, meaning he hasn't officially put it out there to the public, but an agent knows about it. And, so your point is, hey, if you just start by getting with a qualified land agent, that's part of the battle, because you can let them know kind of the budget that you're in for, and that you're looking for something. Now, what I will say to that is a lot of guys are like, oh, I got $200,000 or $300,000 I'm looking to spend. There's probably a bunch of people in that realm. So you better be pretty good friends with that agent if you're wanting a first dibs on a piece of property that's in that range, because there's not many.
Well, you've got to be aggressive, that's for certain. And you guys have mentioned in the intro, just the way that prices are going, there's a lot of variables to that. As you also pointed out, you can look at, oh man, this land's getting expensive, but really, look at what your dollar's worth versus, several years ago. And my advice to people is just get in the game. The cool thing about being a human, we're not like the trees on that land that we buy. We're not stuck there. And you can go out, get some progress going, love on that property, develop it. And if and when an opportunity comes available, now you've got some equity that you've recognized through the sweat of your brow. You can roll that over in a new farm and do it again and do it again and do it again. Some of my biggest clients started out with nothing, and just through work and, putting positive energy and emotion, built themselves up into a pretty nice enterprise.
Yeah, that's that putting the work in, like finding a piece. Some guys are just wanting a turnkey. That's a popular phrase in your world, turnkey farm, where you step into it and, the food plots are there and the blinds are there and, everything's kind of set up and ready. And for them, that's a forever farm. They're just looking for that to be their family farm forever. And that's great too. But then there's a whole nother section of people that are looking to take a pretty raw piece of dirt and a fixer upper and make it into something that's appealing to, do the work and make something that's appealing to a broader audience. And that's where you can really tend to make a pretty good return on a profit, and start rolling. And that's a lot of guys have done that, and been successful at it.
Yeah. There was an extreme fixer upper that I went and looked at last year. It was 12 acres and it was near my home. So I was excited because it was a stupidly low price. And I knew it's just something.
Where's the catch?
Yeah, it's haunted or there's some weird doll on it somewhere that's possessed. But when I went and looked at it, it was a better hang gliding property than it was anything. Like you could launch a hang glider off of it. It was so steep, really difficult to hunt, really difficult to do anything with. So there's like a level of, you have to know how much you're willing to put into it, how much you can put into it to turn it around and make it into something.
Lucas, do you see that a lot where a price, if it's too good to be true, it usually is? I mean, there's probably not a lot of deals out there to be had anymore, or do you still see the occasional deal pop up?
A lot of times it's all about perspective. So for an example, of course, here in the southern part of Missouri, we've got the Mark Twain National Forest, right? And that's not everybody's game, but guys, I mean, I'm still a public land guy at heart, on both deer, turkey, and waterfowl hunting. I like to get out there and chop it up in Missouri and Arkansas. And there's such a vast amount of this forest that, you can kind of get your view skewed a little bit when you run through certain hot spots during maybe deer or turkey season. You're like, oh my gosh, look at all these trucks, look at all these people are out there. But there's a whole lot more county roads that don't get any, virtually kind of activity on it during season. So, here's a great example. I had a few months ago a 20-acre parcel that was surrounded on three sides and right in the middle of a chunk of like 3,800, immediate acres of national forest, and loaded with deer and turkey, remarkable habitat, no other private ground around it. And, some people looked at it as 20 acres. I can't do anything with it. The buyer looked at it as, man, I've got a 20-acre place to have an excellent hunting camp and over 3,000 acres to get out here and mix it up on. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for them, that was an absolute home run because this is $60,000, Yeah. We've got a lot of neat opportunity around here. It just depends on what you are looking for. But to your point, in some of their Iron, Shannon counties, there's still some ground that can be bought. It's rough. It's rugged. It's not going to have any timber on it, but around that $1,000 an acre range, maybe less.
The pessimist in me thinks about that 20-acre scenario with public land all around it. And I'm thinking, trespassers, people coming in and especially if you don't live on it, how do you manage that? And I guess depending on cell service, you can run cameras and stuff. But I'm always thinking about worst case scenario. And that can kind of get in the way of recognizing an opportunity too. Yeah.
I have a friend that has property down in that area and he's building like Airbnb type little houses on them, tiny houses on them or whatever. And they're real pretty set up. And he's kind of near where you're talking about. And he's like, man, people come through all the time. You can't, he's like, they're just random hikers or somebody on a horse or riding you just hardly can stop it. And he's like, there's not really, they're not using it for a hunting property. So he views it probably a little bit differently.
Sure.
So, yeah, I mean, I would certainly think that would be something that would, you'd have to take into account.
Yeah, I was griping about one of my local spots having hikers and mountain bikers come through. And one of my buddies was like, just buy ground, man.
Okay.
I was like, well, that's not a guarantee that you're not going to have the same thing happen.
Sure. So you talked about, like down in that southeast Missouri area. And of course, this is, we're the podcast goes
Global,
everywhere.
really.
So global. Yes. Thank you. So even just North Missouri, but from the middle part of the state to North Missouri up to Iowa or over in Illinois, like those prices vary greatly, Arkansas, whatever. So how do you, I guess, as a potential buyer, how would you know, okay, what area should I focus in on? Or is it more based on your budget or the type of animal that you're trying to hunt? I mean, whether you're, waterfowl guy versus a deer guy, and even a deer guy, whether you're kind of a trophy deer guy versus just, hey, we're out here to put meat in the freezer. I mean, when you talk to a potential client for the first time, how do you hone in on that, on what kind of land they're looking for?
Well, for sure. And, to answer your question, all of the above. We're factoring in, not just what is our budget, but logistics matter more than ever, guys, right? If I'm going to be the one going out here to, let's say, over in New Madrid County, where we've got some of these, wetland properties, fantastic waterfowl hunting, but, it's kind of cost prohibitive to hire out somebody to go out there and do smaller grade food plotting projects, on WRE property, where, a guy can throw really an ATV, but, at least a compact tractor behind, a 3/4 ton truck and go over there and knock out all of that work in a weekend. But, if you're factoring in a 6-hour drive on top of that, that starts to stretch you pretty thin too. As you said, what are we looking to hunt? What's our primary focus? If we are looking for waterfowl with a little bit of upland game, deer and turkey, great. If we're really focused on deer, geographically, that's going to start to kind of, send us in a certain direction in this part of the world anyway.
Yeah. And that the prices, I mean, you mentioned that $1,000 mark. It's crazy to think of land that low. Yeah. When you think of the ground around here, I mean, it's not out of the question to be, anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000 an acre, depending on the type of tillable or whatever it might be. I mean,
my friend had three acres in the Wildwood area come available, and she said it was
$100,000 an acre.
She said it was $30,000. Like, that could add on to the chunk that she's like, no, 30,000 per acre.
Yeah. So, I know a guy
90K
in that area that just bought for $100,000 an acre. Yeah. So it's, I guess it's all relative to location. Yeah. But yeah, it can get pretty costly pretty quickly. But really up in northern Missouri, there's still relatively speaking deals to be had. You're talking about the southern region of the state, deals to be had, different caliber of ground, but it just depends on, like you said, you got to start somewhere. So maybe that's the choice. You go south and you get rolling, you make the improvements, you flip it, and it allows you to work your way, into other areas.
Well, that's right. And, we've got to kind of take into consideration what it is, that 1,000, 1,200 an acre ground that we're talking about. It's also not likely to have 160-inch deer walking across it, or any really nice veneer oak trees. We're talking about rugged, rocky, billy goat country, great deer habitat. But, you're going to have to give a pretty good chunk of that, a pretty sizable chunk, to be able to, have any opportunity to manage a herd, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about the down payment component? Because I know that tends to be that's the barrier for entry, right? For most guys, is to set that aside. Are there any other, like the general rule is 20%? Are there any other options for people around that?
It's also relative to your individual situation, right? As a rule and in general, yes. I also like to remind people that there's a difference in a loan officer and a banker. Okay. Yeah. Depending on where you're at in life, what your situation is, if you've got assets and equities elsewhere, they can sometimes get creative, or if you can get a good enough deal and you've got some equity in that property right off the bat from the purchase, or cut some timber, et cetera, there are creative ways to do a deal. And again, that's where a qualified land broker, somebody that, has these relationships and knowledge and experience, can help you kind of navigate some of those difficulties and find a solution that'll work for you.
If the ground's quality ground, there's always options of renting the farming rights out, the tillable ground, are cattle. There's also CRP programs. The CRP programs actually pay out pretty well depending on the area you're in, but they can pay pretty well. So there's, like you said, there's income that can help you pay for, at the very least, help pay for the property taxes or, those types of things every year. So, maybe it's, if you're not interested in the hunting aspect, you can also lease out the hunting rights. There's all kinds of insurance companies out there that specialize in this thing to give you the protection as a landowner. So there's options when you're willing to get creative, like you're talking about.
That's right.
Yeah. Well,
so as you dive into, interest rates and those types of things, has that really slowed the market down at all? Because in the housing market, it didn't really do what I think they thought it would. But did on the land market, has it really slowed things down for you, or not really?
I'm going to say not really. On both homes and land, of course, you got a whole lot of people that are camping out on either they're owned. Okay. They already own their property outright. So interest rate's not really eating them up. And if they do have an interest rate, unless they were sleeping under a rock, they've probably got something that they're extremely comfortable with. Right. So inventory is still a problem. Common laws of economics, supply and demand. If people aren't wanting to let go of ground, which is one of your greatest hedges for inflation, right? We don't have a surplus of either. And that it's keeping land values and home values, just real estate across the board, very stable. We are seeing days on market to increase. But I mean, at the same token, we're such a global market now, right? Just like this podcast, you're all over the world, right?
That's right.
Now, our consumers are as well. And when you get into the vacant land realm, somebody that's maybe sold something on the coast or sold something around a city, they've got 1031 funds and they're looking to invest. I can be an absentee landowner in Missouri, right? There's not really a whole heck of a lot of duty that's required to own a large stand of timber. Mm-hmm. And if you do have some grass or crop or whatever, just as you said, I'm going to be able to put a relationship with a local farmer, somebody that can keep your fields conditioned, cut hay, maybe lease that out for hunting rights. They can go out there and turn that into a food plot. And so we've got fortunately, some pretty good cash buyers, that are still keeping this rocking. That's a good thing about being diversified a little bit and, what you can offer in the real estate world. You've got to be able to account for the ebb and flow of the market.
Do you foresee, in the coming, I guess really with the election, and they've already kind of talked about interest rates aren't going to go anywhere anytime soon, but will the election, have you seen in your history when election years roll around, does that affect the market? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to hold, sell? What do you typically see?
It's just such an emotional time. And it's not just real estate, it's a market just like many others are. And so, yeah, you'll have people that I'm going to wait, I'm just going to kind of wait and see how this shakes out. And, we'll deal with that. But the market never grinds to a halt. People's needs change. They relocate. People are born, people die, people are married, people are divorced. There are factors that are always going to keep a certain level, of it moving. But as a whole, yes, you're going to have plenty of folks around here, especially in the Midwest, to just be in a holding pattern, waiting to see the outcome of this election.
So for you and the business, does that affect you, or no, things are still moving along steadily enough that, business is still okay?
I'm kind of the oddity, I guess, because, and this is a very fortunate situation to be in, but here for the last couple of years when things are just crazy, they're throwing money at everybody and, you're just selling stuff for over ask, before it even hits the market. And people go, man, I bet you're covered up, aren't you? And I'm just like, I don't know, man, I'm just kind of steady. And then when the sky is falling, for those same folks that were covered up, I mean, I'm just kind of steady. So, personally, that's, my point of view. It's June, no matter what goes on. I'm almost like a farmer, guys. The work that I do this time of the year is the traction that we're going to keep carrying into the rest of the season. Now we do have, around 40 people that work within this organization, and the same deal. I'm not going to listen to whining and crying. There's always a deal to be had out there. And that's what's going to make a successful land broker, a successful real estate agent. And also for the consumer, this is the same attitude that your agent needs to have to be able to get out there and find you those same deals. Because when people are scared, all right, they may be more willing to just move a property out. You've got folks that think that the sky is falling, that the dollar is absolutely going to nothing, that even gold is not going to be worth something. Those are the people that think that land is going to devalue. I'm not in that camp. I'm always going to be a champion for land, an advocate for land. And let's be honest, it's pretty dadgum fun to own, right?
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of benefits, a lot of benefits of the landowner.
Yeah.
And, I don't need to serve everybody. I just want to serve our customer base.
That tactic of scaring landowners is also the same plot for every Scooby-Doo episode. It's always old man Jenkins, by the way.
That's why the podcast just isn't the same when you're not here too.
The insights, the deep insights.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought now. Thank you. I had a follow-up.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
ruined the show.
Yeah, in general, I mean, I think it's never a bad time to get started, even when times are turbulent. It's still, you can always refinance. I mean, interest rates, yes, they're higher than they were during the pandemic, but will they be that ever again? Probably not. There's not a great likelihood you're going to be seeing stuff in the 2s and 3s anytime soon, And so I don't know that should scare someone from making the leap into it. I remember when I bought my first residence, it was a condo, out of college. Yes.
Wow.
And interest rates were about where they are now. And you didn't really think much of it because it's where they had been.
Yeah, it's relative.
Then 08 hit and the market kind of crashed and, things it changed a lot, but you can refinance, and that that's a principle when you're a first time buyer, you don't really realize that, and there's fees and things associated, but guys are refinancing. People are refinancing all the time.
I just watched the Office episode where Michael buys his condo.
Yeah.
It's like, 30-year, you just bought a coffin.
So, you got to think about it like, hey, if there's never a good time probably to make your first jump into it because it's always it makes you very nervous about just the implication of you're attached to that loan now and all that interest that's going to accrue. But, if you keep paying it off steadily, try to pay a little bit extra if you can afford it and try to wait for the time when, things might be changing with the rates and refinance, things can get better. And no matter what, you're building equity and, it's a different form of a savings account, so to speak.
We should say that we are certified financial advisors and that everything we've said on here can be taken for gospel.
But you don't say that.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, don't.
Well, guys, remind people too, think outside of the box a little bit here. Why not partner up? Okay. One thing about, buying the farm is only one obstacle, right? One hurdle. You've still got to be able to manage that rascal.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I do enjoy, spending time. I mean, I get more peace of mind just making, rounds around our place, burning diesel fuel. But I don't really like sitting out there for days on end hunting by myself. Having some camaraderie, somebody to share a common goal with you makes that project a lot more fun, especially when you're suffering through this time of the year. So, bring a partner on, man. Misery loves company. They can share some of that risk and share some of that reward, right there with you.
For sure. What I would say to that is you would want to make sure, set up some sort of LLC and have a clear set of rules around expectations, because if you go in as a couple buddies and you don't have those expectations of here's our management plan, if you're on a management type of mindset, but they aren't. That kind of stuff can drive a real wedge into the relationship. So you better go into it with open eyes and be business minded, even though it might be a friendship. It's a business partnership with a lot of money involved. So you better have a plan. What if we can sell? Are we planning on selling it down the road? What if can one of us buy the other one out? Those types of things or conversations you better have going into it. But that is a great point, as far as the partnership goes, because you start pulling a few people's funds together and you can really start seeing how far you can stretch it.
You bet.
And it's a good way to get started. I mean, as far as like, hey, I can't afford this on my own, but you get a couple guys together and then all of a sudden it's like, if flipping is the objective, it's like, hey, here's all of a sudden we have a little bit, all of us have a little bit that we earned on this round. And you maybe do that once or twice and all of a sudden you're able to do it on your own. You don't need a partner. So
you have a wealthy friend that doesn't like hunting,
which I know a guy doing that right now, but the guy does like hunting, but he's got a wealthy friend and they've done really well flipping. I can't believe how well they're doing flipping ground actually.
Sweet.
So there is always that possibility.
It's a way to do it.
Yeah. So anything we're missing here? What are some, tips or tricks of the trade that, can help a first time buyer?
There's no excuses nowadays with information. I mean, look how many apps are on our phones that give us, a clear insight to what is out there, who owns it, what is around it, what's the terrain, the topography look like. And then, of course, all these websites, are endless. The only thing that people are really missing out on is laying around on the couch complaining, about the cost of entry in the marketplace and not just getting up and diving off and getting started somewhere. And again, make a relationship with a land professional in your area, reach out to those people, but, don't just shoot me a text message and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. That's going to, you got to put the effort into it as well. Like schedule some time. Let's meet up. Let's sit down. Let's really discuss your goals. Let's be wise with our approach. I want to partner up with you too, because I'm out here doing a lot of legwork for you. I would like for you to do the same. Let's figure out your financial situation. I want you comfortable too, guys. I only want to sell that farm when you want to, not because you need to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, Tim, you want to jump into
I'm comfortable.
Shenanigans? Are you comfortable? Good.
Mostly.
I was worried.
Were you?
Well, Lucas, we always give everybody a chance to jump off at this point because the next section is just us, kind of the shenanigans of the show. Like we do, question of the day and wildlife word of the day and shout outs. You're welcome to stay on and play the reindeer games with us, or you're welcome to jump off at this point if you're busy, which we assume you're busy, but it's up to you.
Guys, I do. I've really got to run. I appreciate the time so much. Great to meet and visit. Thank you for the opportunity. And of course, keep on doing what you're doing. We're really enjoying the content.
Yeah. Thanks, man. We appreciate you jumping on and tell people how they can find you and get a hold of you if they're in that Arkansas, Southeast Missouri kind of area.
Yeah. If you're in the Midwest, the easiest way to get at us is mozark.com. All our contact information is on there. And then, of course, anywhere that you're on social media, just check out Mozark. You'll find us.
Mozark.
That's it.
Yeah,
all right.
Short for Missouri Zark.
Got it. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
Exactly. You're the first person, Tim, that's nailed that. Thank
Love
you.
that Missouri Zark. Big fan.
Well, we appreciate
Guys,
it, man.
Thanks, Lucas.
Yeah, have a good one.
Okay. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Talk to you soon. All right.
Lucas chose well.
Yes, usually people that stay on regret
I'm
it.
jumping.
Him and Tom Miranda are quick to jump off.
Yeah.
By the way, I got a text from Tom and he wanted to thank you and I for having him on again.
Cool.
And he really enjoyed the episode. And he said he was going to send us something in the mail, something special in the mail. He did extend the invite to Africa again. It's like, should I tell Tim about this?
Yes, you should.
He did extend it.
Think of all the content that we could think of. Okay, so Mark and Terry, they may kill a couple 200s every season. We have not yet had a baboon kill
No.
on any of the Drury Outdoors shows.
Bo
It's
madness.
about time, right?
This is Bo Madness.
A friend made a Sanford and Son reference later that same day that we filmed that show. I was like, what a weird thing. But I just keep picturing Fred Sanford gripping his chest like and a baboon gripping their chest after getting hit with an arrow. Like
It's so weird. It's so weird.
I don't want to hunt. I don't want to shoot a baboon.
No, but plenty of people do and have a hell of a fun time doing it. So.
Yeah.
I like the idea of going to Africa. I don't really. Right. I know everybody has ever gone over there said it's the funnest trip ever, when they hunt over there, but I just don't care about that.
Like you don't care about the type of animals and the.
Yes. It doesn't excite me. Like going on an elk hunt excites me or caribou maybe, but more like mule deer, elk, those kinds of like bear doesn't really excite me.
Same. Yeah. And I'm sure I'm speaking out of ignorance. And like you said, if I went and did it, I'd be dyed in the wool. Yeah. That's what I'd want to do.
I know like Kurt and those guys are working class. They got an opportunity. They went over there and they loved it. So, you hear that a lot when a guy actually goes, it's like, man, you would love the experience. So yeah. But he did extend the invite again. So
Tom,
if you haven't watched that episode, it's worth it. Tom's a phenomenal storyteller.
I saw Craig Morgan post something about his Alaskan cabin getaway. I
just saw that.
And I was like, man, that
talked about that on the podcast.
That would be a cool trip too.
All right. So what do we got here? We got the question of the day. The question of the day is brought to you by Sportsman Channel. Check out the latest season of Winchester and Drury's Natural Born. All right. We got a question from Tyler Brown coming from the Rack Pack. He says, do you continue to put out mineral during summer or do you transition away from that? I typically do. I haven't this year. I've just been behind in general at the farms, but I typically do in Missouri, it's got to be in a county where you're legal. Obviously, like Illinois, you can't do that. But yeah, I do put it out where I can through the summer months and they still hit it. I know like they're starting to top out that antler development, but you also got to think of like the fawns and every other thing.
Nursing does.
Yeah. So I do. Yes. And then it's just a great way, when I start putting out cameras to start getting inventory.
Yeah.
So yes, I would. I don't know if if
I could,
I was going to say you're in
none
areas
of
where
my
you
places
can't.
anymore allow for mineral, which is a real shame.
Yeah. But yes, I would if you can, but check your rules and regulations.
Today's Wildlife Word is brought to you by PH Outdoors. Get ready for a successful hunting season with PH Outdoors G-Series No-Till Drill.
We need to have Paul Hollis back on the podcast.
That's one busy dude.
Yeah, I always see him
always rolling
all over the country dropping off drills. That's the one thing. If you buy a drill from him, you're going to get a very personal interaction because he's, it's his company. He's very involved. Great service. So
yeah, he cares a lot. About your success. The hard outer shell of more than 700 tick species is called what? So this is the hard outer shell.
It is tick pick time of year.
Man, I tried. It's hard to zoom in.
Send Tim your tick picks.
That's Matt Drury at.
No. Tim.
You filter out all my emails for me. All right. Is it A, exoskeleton, B, scutum, C, shield, or D, extra crunch?
I'm going to go with exoskeleton, but I don't know if that's correct.
Okay.
Seems like an outer shell would be an exo.
I also would go with exoskeleton, but scutum, B, is identified as the answer.
I should have went with B because A was too obvious.
Yeah. Maybe we can get a call from the judges. Judges, is that it's scutum?
Scutum it is.
Okay.
Ding, ding. All right.
Now, shout outs.
We got one.
Thank you. Steve C.
MS. Steve Seams. Steve Seams? I don't know. This could be a new Rack Pack member.
Seams. On Apple Podcasts, he dropped us a review. Said, keep up the good work and shoot straight.
Don't tell me how to shoot.
Yeah.
I definitely like to shoot anything but straight.
I want my arrows to kick out a little bit to the left. That's what I'm going to do.
Hey, I've been shooting. I get the archery elk trip in September, about the time that Missouri season opens up. So I've been shooting and training, and I took my bow over to Mike's archery shop over
Mike,
here.
The man.
Yeah. And they got a new D-loop on it. The boys over there put a new D-loop on it, and he checked it out just to make sure everything's. I wrecked an e-bike a couple times through the deer season. So
Scott lived a hard season for sure.
So just wanted to make sure the bow was in good shape. I was shooting it fine. Honestly, I felt pretty good about how it shot, but I just wanted to make sure nothing was busted, bent, or broken. And it held up. The old Matthews lift was holding up.
It takes a beating and keeps on ticking.
Yeah. So anyways, I've been shooting and getting ready. I haven't shot a ton of distance, out to 30, 40 max. So I need to start finding a place to add some distance to it. But it's that time of year, man.
Man, I'm excited. Yeah. Sophie did a NASP thing here recently.
Nice.
And she's like, Dad, I want to start shooting more in the backyard. I was like, you have a Matthews Genesis bow that I bought you 3 years ago.
Hey, guess what?
You could be. It's exactly the bow you're shooting with the Department of Conservation.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, cool.
I didn't know. You didn't tell me.
What a thoughtful dad I am.
Tommy Floyd. NASP, great organization.
Yeah, they really are. Okay, so we got no new Rack Pack members this week.
Sons of guns. Share, if you don't mind, go into your face for the guys that are and gals that are in the Rack Pack. If you don't mind, just blanket, send it to all your friends and invite. You can do that.
We'll get a bunch of people who are like, what is this?
Yeah.
Why am I here?
Or just send it to your hunting friends.
There you go.
That'll alleviate a lot.
A little bit of a filter.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, should that be
right
it?
on. Let's do
Tim,
it.
it's great to have you in for the show.
It's great to be had.
I
can't wait to I'm already seeing some deer on camera. I am already ready for deer season.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's I am not ready for it.
Yeah,
I'm excited for it, not ready for it.
Yeah. It's funny how the worm turns, and it's like, okay, turkeys are in the past, a million miles away. I'm ready for whitetails.
I'll say this. I thank the good Lord that I put in the clover I put in, because it's going to alleviate a lot of stress. I still got to put in a few food plots, but not nearly what I would have otherwise. Sure. So, boom. It does look like I'm losing a lease or two, a spot or two, but that's okay. We'll hopefully pick up something to transition.
I lost one, picked up one, nowhere near the same size, much smaller. Yeah, but it could be a sleeper spot.
Sweet.
We'll see. Stay tuned.
More to talk about.
Yes.
All right. We appreciate y'all listening. As always, be safe. Identify those targets. Peace out.
Shoot relatively straight.
Take land management to the next level with DeerCast's exclusive virtual rain gauges. Pinpoint accuracy and historical data, all powered by industry-leading ag weather services. DeerCast has the tools to keep you ahead of your game.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV is brought to you by DeerCast Maps, waypoints, weather, virtual rain gauges, and more. Every tool you need to get ahead of your game.